Today's topic is one-step equations. When solving an equation, the goal is to get the variable by itself. Remember, the variable stands for a number. You are trying to determine what the number is that the variable stands for. When you see multiplication in the problem, what operation do you use to solve? We will use inverse operations to solve. If you have multiplication in a one-step equation, you're going to use its opposite to solve. The opposite of multiplication is division. If you see division, again, you will use the inverse operation to solve, which in this case is multiplication. For addition, the inverse operation is subtraction. And for subtraction, the inverse operation is addition. The first example, 3x equals 18, demonstrates multiplication in the problem. The 3 and the x are being multiplied by each other. In order to solve this one-step equation, we need to use division. Notice I used the bar to represent division. My solution came out to be x equals 6. The second example illustrates division in a one-step equation. X divided by -2 equals 4. To undo the division, we will use multiplication. Notice I used parentheses to indicate multiplication. My solution came out to be x equals -8. Keep in mind, for every equation that you solve, what you do to one side of the equation, you must do to the other. The next example illustrates addition. 10 plus x equals -14. Will we use subtraction to solve? For this example, notice I subtracted 10 from both sides. When subtracting a number from a negative, you will get an answer of a bigger negative. My solution came out to be x equals -24. Another way people like to do these problems is by adding the opposite. The opposite of 10 is -10. So if you add -10 to both sides, you will get the same answer. Notice, when you add -10 to 10, they cancel out because they are opposites. -14 plus -10 is -24. The next example illustrates subtraction in the problem. You will use addition to remove the subtraction. X minus 6 equals -5. I I am going to add 6 to both sides to solve, because 6 is the opposite of negative 6. Because 6 is the opposite of negative 6, they cancel out. Negative 5 plus 6 gives me positive 1. So my solution is x equals 1. Now we are going to try a few more examples. The first example says 5x equals negative 45. The 5 and the x are being multiplied, so I will use division to solve. I divided both sides by 5 and got a solution of x equals negative 9. Example number 2 illustrates division in the problem. I will use multiplication to undo the division. By multiplying both sides by negative 4, I got the x, the variable, by itself. And negative 3 times negative 4 gave me positive 12. So my solution is x equals 12. Example number 3 shows subtraction in the problem. You will use addition to undo the subtraction. Notice I'm adding the opposite of negative 12 to remove it. Because my signs are different on the right side, I actually end up subtracting. Negative 2 plus 12 is the same as 12 minus 2, giving me a solution of x equals 10. Example number 4 has addition. I will remove negative 9 by adding its opposite to both sides. I added 9 to both sides and got x equals 19. Number 5 illustrates addition. I will use subtraction to remove the positive 7 and get the x by itself. My solution came out to be x equals negative 7. Example number 6, negative 4x equals negative 24. The negative 4 and the x are being multiplied. I will use division to undo the multiplication. Notice when I divided negative 24 by negative 4, my result was positive 6. My solution came out to be x equals 6. The next type of problem I want to look at is what to do when we have fraction coefficients. Fraction coefficients are when you have a fraction in front of your variable. The fraction is being multiplied by the variable. We do not divide fractions, we multiply by their reciprocal. The reciprocal is the flip of a fraction. The first example, 1/2 x equals negative 12, has a coefficient of 1/2. The reciprocal of 1/2 is 2 over 1. So I will multiply both sides of the equation by 2 over 1. When you multiply 2 over 1 times 1/2, they cancel each other out. That leaves you with your variable by itself. On the right side, we are going to multiply. Negative 12 times 2 is negative 24. And you have an invisible 1 on the bottom of your negative 12. So on the bottom, you're doing 1 times 1. which is 1. You do not need to put a 1 on the bottom of negative 24. Example number 2, 4/5 W equals 8. You will need to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 4/5, which is 5/4. Notice, when you multiply 5/4 times 4/5, they cancel each other out. When you multiply reciprocals by each other, they equal 1, which is what you want, because you want your variable to have an invisible 1 in front of it. Now for the multiplication on the right side. 8 times 5 is 40. Remember, you have an invisible 1 on the bottom of the 8. So on the bottom, you're going to do 1 times 4. We have 40 divided by 4, which equals 10. So our solution is W equals 10. The next example requires us to get rid of the fraction coefficient, negative 3/4. We are going to now multiply both sides by the reciprocal, which is negative 4/3. Notice, when I multiply negative 4/3 by negative 3/4, they cancel each other out, giving me the variable by itself. Now, I will multiply 9 times negative 4. And I will multiply the invisible 1 times 3. Negative 36 divided by 3 gives you negative 12. The next example is going to require us to multiply each side by the reciprocal of negative 2/3, which is negative 3/2. I am now going to multiply negative 15 times negative 3. A negative times a negative is a positive. In this case, it's positive 45. I am now going to multiply 1 times 2. Since 45 does not evenly divide by 2, you can either leave it as an improper fraction, like we would if it was a slope, or you can turn it into a decimal. For the time being, we will leave it as an improper fraction. The last example is 5/6x equals negative 20. Think for a minute, what's the reciprocal of 5/6? You're going to flip it, and that will give you a reciprocal of 6/5. Go ahead and multiply both sides by 6/5. You have x equals negative 120/5. So now you have to think, does negative 120 divide evenly by 5? The answer is yes. Negative 120 divided by 5 is negative 24. Those are your one-step equation notes.